You're listening to 99.7 W259 DI Youngstown and AM 830 WKTX Cortland, The Drum.
The views expressed on the following program are those of the host, not the staff, management, or ownership of the station.
Hello, hello.
Hi there, Bob.
Yes, how you doing?
Good morning. This is Jeremy. Coming live through the ionosphere, straight to your metal teeth from Huntsville, Alabama. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad you enjoyed joining us this after Thanksgiving weekend. How old are you? What's your name, Jeremy?
My name is Jeremy. Yes, sir. I am 39 years young.
Okay, that's wonderful. And you're from Huntsville, Alabama.
That's right. Yep. I'm originally from Cincinnati. I haven't been as far north as Youngstown, but I'm familiar with the area.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm so glad that to have you on the show. Give a shout out to my daughter Loretta for fixing this up for us, and it's amazing what technology could do today. But tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about yourself. What was you doing in your days when you were out there partying and everything? Was you drinking, doping, or what?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, I'd like to start and say that I am a man in recovery, and that is something that I take pride in. Um,
Yes.
you know, my drug of choice was alcohol. There, it doesn't matter if it's a drink or a drug. In my eyes, are all the same, and they can all manifest in the same way. My story starts, well, all the way back from when I was a child, but really, my recovery started probably a little over 2 months ago. And
Okay.
Bob, there's a question that I wanted to ask you. Um, I'd like to ask you, how do you pray and what do you pray for?
Well, I pray to the good Lord and I ask for the protection and that He watch over me and my family and be with those who are lost. And I thank Him for everything I have, good or bad, because I
Mm,
think, if you don't have no bad, you wouldn't appreciate the good. And I
absolutely.
just thank Him for that. And I thank Him for the 7 children that I have. Of course, I lost three of my sons,
Mm,
and I lost my wife. But He has seen me through that. So I just pray for a lot of things. My sobriety of 54 years and going for more.
wow. Wow.
and
Congratulations.
oh, thank you. And I just pray for those who are lost can be found. And thank you for
That's
asking that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that is really sage advice, and I really appreciate your answer there. Um, you know, when I had just gotten out of the hospital, and a few months ago, I was in the hospital diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. I was given a few months to live. Um, and one of my best friends, Loretta, she was my guardian angel, I tell you, because she called me that day and she told me to go to the hospital. And I'm convinced I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. However, my road to recovery has been long. I'm still healing to this day, but I'm a survivor. And I remember when I got out of the hospital, um, I was in a room and I was lucky enough to have one of the only rooms with a clock radio. And on that radio, there was only one station that would come in if you would, I don't know, just make a pose just right or, move the antenna just right. And it was a gospel
Mhm.
station. And I would sit there
Okay.
and, I could hardly walk. I was sick, so sick, um, and in pain. And I remember the pastor of that radio program talking about how we pray and changing the way that we pray. In the past,
Uh-huh.
I would say these 911 prayers.
Right. Right.
I would lay my
Mm-hmm.
head down and, God, please just give me the money for rent. Give me the woman of my dreams. Give me that car, that house. Let me get
Mm-hmm.
that pair of sneakers, those fresh new kicks.
All
I
material things. Yeah.
material things, absolutely. And that's the way I kind of lived my life up until that point. Um, Now this started gradually, but um, when I was very sick, I was a very nihilistic individual. I didn't see a future, and I saw a world that I didn't want to participate in, basically.
Okay.
And I, I was living alone, and I didn't have the courage to take my own life, but I was slowly killing myself. And
Okay.
my prayers um, were answered in a different way. I was so sick, and when you wake up in the hospital and there's a priest praying over you, um, there's a point in your life where you have to make a decision, right? And
Yes.
you can live or you can die. And I wasn't scared of death. By that point, I was not scared of death at all. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I started to contemplate the impact that my death would have amongst my mother, my father, my sisters, brothers, friends. And it was almost like a guitar chord was struck or a pebble dropped into a pool. And you see the concentric rings growing. And I thought to myself, what a horrible legacy to leave behind, that negativity, that sadness, that sorrow that reverberates through generations,
Mm-hmm.
and I I was so close to dying. When they talk about those that wander or purgatory or spirits or something like that, there's like a cold presence or something like that. I felt that in my bones for
Okay.
months. I was so sick and I felt so cold. It was 100 degrees outside and I'd sit there full sweats in the sun and I still couldn't get warm. And um something changed. Something changed in me and it wasn't like a booming voice. It wasn't a bolt of lightning. It was some type of feeling that came over me and that completely changed my attitude and outlook upon life. And it truly is transformative for me.
Mm-hmm. We
So
call that a spiritual awakening.
that's what they say. Yep, they say that.
A
Um,
spiritual
sometimes
awakening.
quickly,
Yes.
sometimes slowly.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
excuse me.
let's. I know you kind of feeling it. I just kind of feel you choking up a little bit. So you got to have a lot of
Yeah,
gratitude for what the Holy Spirit did for you. And that was
I
a
do.
miracle because you was on the deathbed.
I
So let's
was.
back up. How old were you when you started drinking?
I remember my first drink. Um, I was 18 years old. I
Hmm.
was raised in a conservative Catholic household, and I was a pretty good kid. I never touched drugs or drank or anything like that, and but I was very insecure. My family moved around a lot. Um, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, put in special education courses. So I was always sort of on the outside looking in, and I always wanted to like be part of something bigger. Friends would come and go. So when I was around 18 or 19, I had my first drink, and I remember exactly where I was because it was a profound moment. I was in my basement. I was watching a movie, and I had my first beer and I had my first buzz. And I remember going outside and looking at the sky and saying, God, how could something that feels so good be so bad? And I made so many promises to myself, because my father,
Yeah, yeah.
he and other members of my family have similar struggles, and I was like, I'll never drink and drive. I'll never go to work like this, or I will, I'll always take care of myself first and my relationships first, and yada yada yada. I made all these promises that I broke, but it was truly a spiritual moment for me. It was,
Mhm.
it was the answer to my insecurities for that short period of time, relatively speaking. I would say that I was more confident. I was less anxious, this, that, and the other, but later did I know that it comes with a very, very high price. Um, and I always warn people there are certain people that seek knowledge in a sort of way, sacred knowledge or something like that. I'm a testament. There's a reason why certain knowledge is kept secret,
Mhm.
or there's initiates to that knowledge, because it does come with a heavy price. And I've paid a price. I'm a survivor of cirrhosis. I've lost 2 toes along the way,
Ooh.
and
Wow.
my life has ever been changed, but I will never go back. And it was my ego that led me down this path of the dark night of the soul. Have you ever heard of
Yeah,
that term before?
I heard that term before. Yes, I have. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and it's basically, for the listeners, it's a term coined when you are completely cut off from the light of God or your higher power, whatever you want to call it. It comes in many different stories, over many different religions. Jesus was tested in the desert. The Buddha, on the path of his enlightenment, also experienced these. Saint Paul the Apostle, Mother Teresa, all had
Mhm.
these transformative experiences. And they talk about the philosopher's stone, turning lead into gold. But what they
Mhm.
don't really say is that it's not a literal sense. It's a transformation of the spirit. The path to everlasting life is something transformative that can only come from within. And sometimes we temper our souls in the flames of adversity. And
Yes.
as fire burns, it can also purify. And
Well, that's
I've,
great.
mhm.
Just let me ask you, how do you maintain your sobriety today? Do you go to meetings or a church, or
Mhm.
everybody has a way of staying sober? You can't do it yourself. You got to, because a lot of people, they think of themselves as the big I.
Right.
I can do everything.
I,
But
I, I,
in the
me.
end, yeah, me. But in the end, you got to break it down and become one of the little weeds,
Hmm.
with gratitude, you know.
Gratitude. Yeah,
So
that's a
do you
great
go to,
question. Um,
yeah.
so, I've been in the recovery game for a while, and I never really. I had one foot in the door, one foot out, basically. This time around,
Mhm.
I decided to sell my house, but when I was in the hospital, and I knew I had to make this decision, because I knew if I went back to that place, I'd probably end up alone and back in the same spot. Um,
Mhm.
I decided to join a recovery community. Um, so a group of men that share the same ideals as us. Um, and we go to meetings, of course, and Um, I practice spirituality and church and meditation in a lot of different ways. um, Something for me that is really important and I think is most impactful for me is being of service because it's all about that ego. It's all about that me. And
Right, right.
if I can be present, truly present, and I can tell my mind to shut up and I actually listen. Well, it's not less
Hmm.
of a listening, more of a feeling.
Yes.
You feel the wind in your hair. You feel the sun on your skin. You feel
Right.
the fur on the cat that you pet, and
Hmm.
you ask your higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, to remove your ego and replace it with its own. And it's almost as if your feet start moving on their own. And you suddenly realize you're not obsessing about the past or trying to predict the future. And everything is serene in that moment. And
Hmm.
when you
See.
practice being selfless and giving to others and being of service to other people, you're not thinking about yourself.
Right,
You're doing
right.
something for others. And I try to do that, try to practice that daily, with, my recovery and everything and physical limitations that I've gone through. It could be something as small as giving someone a call and that you haven't heard from for a long time. It's just asking, how are they
Right,
doing?
right.
Or, I drive. I'm one of the people in our community that has a car, and I will ask everybody just about every day if they need to go grocery, do they have doctor's appointments, do they want to go to meetings, do they, do this or that.
Hmm.
Just little things can have such a big impact on people's lives. Just a
Oh
simple
yeah.
gesture of, hey, nice nails, or just something little can change someone's day in an instant.
Oh, that's so true. They say you got to give it away to keep it. You know.
Exactly.
You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to give it away to keep it.
And the
And
only
I
way to get it,
imagine.
it's not like there are people that want to become, I don't know, enlightened or chase that feeling, and it's like the further you grasp for it, the further it gets. It's like trying to hold water in your hand. You have to surrender and separate your ego, and it will flow through you eventually.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to surrender. You got to give it up. You know. You
Hmm.
got to become humble. You know. Right
Absolutely.
now, Jeremy, I'm going to have to sell some spots for our sponsors right now.
Hmm.
And if you're out there and you need some work on your furnace or you need a new furnace, or just call Price Heating and they will very gladly come out and give you a free estimate and check out your heating system or air conditioning. And the phone number for that is 1-800 Save Price. 1-800 Save Price. Also, if you have an organization or a church you want to put on prevention programs, which are very, very helpful, you can call Youngstown Urban Minority Alcohol Drug Abuse Program. The director is Daryl Alexander, and the phone number is 330-743-2772. And if you just want personal counseling, one-on-one, you can call Gloria Griffin, and she'd be willing to sit down and talk to you and help you and guide you. And her phone number is 330-330-8332. Now, Jeremy,
Hmm.
do you have a family? Are you married, or what's your status down there in Huntsville?
I am currently a bachelor. I was married for five
Uh huh.
years. Um, I come from a family of two sisters, two stepbrothers, and a stepsister. Um, my father is down here, and that's one of the reasons I'm down here is because he is here. He's an engineer, and I work in IT space. And this part of the country is a great part to focus on that type of career. So that's kind of what led me here. Um, I was going through college and I was struggling with my addiction, and I'd see my peers graduate, start families, and this, that, and the other, and I was just not doing that, and I knew there was something wrong, and that was the first time I reached out, but I ended up taking my car and packing everything up and moving to Alaska for a year. So I drove from
Alaska.
Alaska.
Go
They
ahead.
call it a geographic change, right?
Yeah,
So
right, right.
I drove 6 days from Cincinnati, Ohio, all the way up to Ketchikan, Alaska, and it took me one day by ferry, so 7 days total. And I spent a year up there. I was a we ran a whale watching tour, so I would work on the dock or on the boat and give tours, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. And if money was no object, that's what I'd love to do. Work at a seasonal
Mhm.
job. The winter head down south, or the summer head up north to like a state park or something. But
Well, I have to say that's the first time I ever heard of the occupation of whale watching.
yeah, it
You
was
take them out
great.
and they could see, you be out there and you be watching the whales, huh?
It was beautiful, and you know what? It was very lucrative. The rent and board was paid for. We had a bonus at the end of the year. I was making good money, and there are people that do that for a living. They have these pop-up trailer, tow behinds or Winnebagos. There's a guy that owned a boat, and he'd sail to Alaska during the summer and down to the Bahamas in the winter. And it's just a different lifestyle. But
So it's
maybe
all
one day.
kind of things to do to enjoy. Everybody has to find their niche, and when you find your niche in life, you just thank God and keep on doing it.
That's right.
And I think you
And
found yours. Go ahead.
yeah, and for many years I found lost. I was just working, you know, to maintain. I still work, yeah, obviously, but now I feel like I have a new calling, and that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to come on the show, um, because I feel like my life has meaning and purpose now. The message that I carry can be incredibly impactful for other people. And you don't even have to be in recovery. There's so many people that are struggling nowadays. There's this sort of adolescent masculinity that's pervasive in our society today.
Hmm.
Socrates said something to the effect of like, when everything is written, men will read passages and think they know what it means. So like when we go to war, there's a lot of men out there that like to play the toy soldier. They put on the
Hmm.
camo, they go out in the woods, they shoot the targets, they're wearing their boots, but if you talk to a veteran who's actually experienced those things, it's a very different experience. It's not something that you can read about in a book. My my
Right,
step
right.
my my stepfather's father was a pilot in World War II, and he was a bomber pilot. And when he was asked to share his experiences in the war, he would get very quiet and self-reflective. And he wouldn't say much. He'd only say as much as, oh, well, I was here at this time, but you could tell on the man's face that it's not all the Rambo, style that everyone
No,
makes it out to be. And
no,
a
no.
lot of these young men out here are stuck in that sort of infantile stage. They can't get past that, and
Yeah,
they're ruled by their ego. And I was one of those people for a really long time. Um, just dressing to save face or clout or whatever it is. I was chasing things and throwing them into the black hole of my soul, and that thirst could never be quenched by those material things. And
oh
now that
yeah,
I pray differently now. That's why I asked you, change the way you pray, because today I don't pray for material things. I pray for God to relieve me of my ego, and
right.
so I can walk that path. And the thing that is truly magical about it is that the rewards that you get, you think you know what you want, right? As
Yes,
a person, but when you get those things and put them into yourself, they're not they're not fulfilling. But the rewards
enough.
that you get that are delivered by something that's greater than you,
Hmm.
truly satiate your mind and
Yeah,
body and your soul.
yeah.
And it's a
There's
powerful
oh,
thing.
it's a very powerful. There's a saying that man prays and God laughs
Hmm.
because He knows what's good for you,
Hmm.
and you be asking for material things. And if you're alcoholic or a drug addict, you pray to get sober, but you never do the steps to get that way.
That's right.
But you live to get sober. He is watching over you.
Absolutely.
He's
And
watching
that's why
over
they
you.
say, faith without works is dead. I always like to
That's right.
imagine that I'm sitting on the side of a river bank and I'm looking at the other side of the river and I'm saying to myself, well, I need to be over here. And what happens is I jump into the river, I fight the current, and I get so exhausted I either turn back or I almost drowned and I end up having to call for help over and over and over again. And to the point
Yeah,
where I've almost died. Today
yeah,
I jump in the river and I float downstream. And I know there will be placid waters, but there will be rough waters and stormy
yes.
seas.
There you
But
go.
the power of the God of my understanding will see me through rough waters. But
Hmm.
I also have a responsibility to row away from the rocks when it's my turn. And that's something that's very important.
Oh, very, very important. Very important. The spiritual life. I remember my uncle was telling me he was getting ready to go to war. I think it was, you know, World War II. And he said he's actually seen a guy who had real dark hair turn white just like that.
Wow.
You, that's the fear of it,
Hmm.
because you're getting ready to go to the unknown and you're not gonna know if you're gonna come back or not.
That's right.
And so, fear is a good thing,
Hmm.
but fear itself of I can't stop drinking is wrong.
That's right.
You just get with the right people. You get to the right programs such as Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous,
Hmm.
or if you're just binging eating all the time, Overeaters Anonymous. They got an
That's right.
anonymous for everything.
There's a
Sex Anonymous.
chapstick eaters anonymous, I hear.
What?
That's yeah. There's
Oh,
there's something for
I've never
everyone.
heard of that one. Yeah,
and
there's one for
and
everything.
these programs, they're not just for, like I said, they're not just for people that have issues with drugs or alcohol. It's a way of living, um,
Hmm.
that works for a lot of people, and some people
Yes.
that's religion, and that's great too. Um,
Yeah.
And I found my way through those steps. And there's no
Oh,
right or
good.
wrong way to do it. But as long as you're open-minded and willing, and you have to ask for help, whether that be
That's
from
right.
your support system or from whatever it is you call God. It could be a tree, it could be
Yeah. And,
God of
and to our
Christ or
listening
whatever.
audience out there, if you're looking for help, all you have to do is call 211.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them what's going on with you, and they will direct you to the place where you can receive the help that you need. And
211.
I
Yep.
know there's someone out there listening, you know, that
And
needs that help.
suicide prevention hotline, I'd like to plug at, you can call 988 as well.
Right, right.
So that's important. I would encourage our listeners and anyone today, if there's someone that you haven't talked to in a long time, just give them a call or a message. Just ask them how they're doing. Um, you
That's
know,
right.
because you can't imagine just the little things. Those small little
Right.
things can change lives and save lives. It's
Well, Jeremy, our time has come to an end. You have been very helpful and knowledgeable, and I know that you have helped someone. I know you helped me. It's really good hearing you. I'd like to give a shout out to Loretta for getting you on the show. My
Thanks,
little twitsy
Loretta.
witsy daughter down there in Huntsville.
Yep, I'll be watching over
And
her.
well, take care of her. And with that, it's time to say adios and
Adios, mi
goodbye.
amigo.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Thanks, Bob. You have a great day.
All right. Have a good Sunday. Bye bye.